So here's our black tile. And it's time to think about our little ceremony. Today, I'm not going to start with the pencil dots and the lines. I'm going to start kind of in the middle because of the way this works out. But I do want us to take a minute and feel the appreciation we have for all the good things in our lives. There are lots of bad things in the world, in our neighborhood, between our friends, and all these other things, our health. But let's think about the good things. And maybe the whole time we're doing this today, feel the gratitude for people who help us along the way. And then people we help, people that are out there so that we can help them. So loosen up your shoulders, and I'm going to start now with my string, and I'm just going to do it in pencil lightly, and it will disappear as we move on through the process, but it will give you a focal point. We're going to come from up here, and we're going to make a zigzag line like that down the paper. And so really, just to get ourselves used to doing this, we're going to start in one corner, and we're going to go down to here, go down to the bottom. So I'm going to start small. Yeah, you can see this. Make the next one a little bigger. And then I'm going to make them a little narrower as I come down to the bottom, like that. And if you've got more or less than I do, or they're bigger or smaller, that's fine. There are no mistakes on this. I think I might put a little tail right there. And now we're going to take our Jelly Roll 5, and we're going to trace, more or less trace this. The thing I'd like you to do more than anything else is to go from point to point. You might even just put tiny little white dots on those points so you can aim for them. So we can find our path, little lanterns. And we're going to try to keep as straight a line as we can when we trace over this pencil line. So we want to go from dot to dot as straight as we can. When I draw my pencil lines, it's never as straight as I would like it. So this gives you a second chance. And we can come back later, and after this ink has dried, and we can put in a thicker line if we want to. But I thought we would just start off with this 05 line, pretty fine. Turn your tile to make it more comfortable. Take your time. Okay. All right. So now we've got this big zigzag. And now we're going to begin to chop it up. So let me go back here to the example and point out where the zigzag is. On this one, I started here, then went here, 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 bum, bum. The first lines that we're going to put in, we're going to go down this side of the zigzag, and we're going to start at the top of a point here, and we're going to come down to halfway between the next 2 points on the zigzag. So we start here, we come down to just about halfway. And then we repeat that all the way down. So you find the halfway point here, like it's about right there. And then you do it for the next one. You just keep coming on down. Don't get confused. And if it's not spot on halfway, don't worry about it. It's a variation. Okay. At this point, I always think it looks like this is a cliff over here, or this is a mesa, and this is a cliff, and it's like the land is all broken away down here. And you could fall off this cliff if you weren't careful. But that will change. Now we're going to come down this side and do the same thing, starting at this point, you know, from these outside points, and then coming to halfway in the middle there, like that. See, from this outside point, and then halfway. And there's nothing else down there, so we'll just leave it be. Actually, up here at the top, I could have put one right there. All right. So now it's beginning to look like a piece of paper that was folded back and forth and back and forth. Okay. We're going to go back over on this side. And this time we're going to kind of be drawing up. So we go down this side and then we can come up. We go from this point to halfway right there. And we go from this point to halfway. There. And it'll make this thing look kind of like a sailboat at this point. This point, halfway up. And there you are. And now I don't know what it looks like. A zigzag. Take a little sip of tea and we're going to come up the other side. So here's our outside points, all here. And we're going to come to halfway up that line, halfway up this line. Let's start at the bottom, come halfway up. Bottom, halfway up, like that. It's a good idea to try to draw this as systematically as you can. Otherwise, you can get real confused real fast. And you can make something that looks pretty nice, but it's not what you necessarily started out to do. All right. There we are. Done. Okay. So how does yours look, Margot? Does it look pretty much like this? Let me see. Yeah. All right. You got it. Great. And that's it. I'm going to turn it over. I'm going to write the name of this tangle with a bigger pen that you can see. This is called ing. When I send the letter out, I'm going to send a link to the picture, to a picture of the sculpture that inspired it. Ing is a multinational financial group, and this sculpture was in front of one of their buildings somewhere, and I think Molly Hollabaugh came home after seeing it and taking a picture of that sculpture and drew and figured out this tangle. So it's called ing. At this point, I'm going to lay down my jelly roll pins and I'm going to decide what colors I'm going to work with. So, and I'm going to get out my, my charcoal pencil and maybe my colored pencil, white, and pick a light and a dark a lighter and darker color of some colored pencils. Like here, you could have a lighter, we'll start with white, and then we'll go to a lighter blue and then a darker blue, and then we'll end up leaving this black showing. And I'm going to show you a trick. If something gets, you know, white gets where it doesn't belong and it should be black, you can come back with a black pencil and just draw over it like that. Pretty much won't show. So I think today, since I've done blue and I've done gray, I think I may do green. So I'm going to pick me a lighter green. Well, I don't know. It's red. And you can turn your tile over and try out your colors on the back and see if that's really what you want. So I've got that green, and then this is a darker green. Oh. Or I could go from yellow to green, but that hardly shows at all. Okay. I don't know. I may do this like that. We'll see how that works, these two. I say if you want to use just these blues, go for that. And here I used 2 different shades of gray, and then I came back with a little pink on it, or you could use pink with a red. Pick your favorite colors. I just don't want to get bored doing the same colors all the time. Keep the teacher interested, you know. Okay, now let's look at our tile and decide where we want to leave the darkness and where we want brightness on this. Where is the light going to hit it? And what edges is the light going to highlight? When I look at this, I'm still digging around for a black that I don't have. All right. Well, I had it last night and it's not here now, so I'm going to use this black. I'm thinking that I could mark on here what I see is going behind. And so I could maybe mark right there with my black pencil, meaning this is going to slip down behind that. So this might be an edge that's out in front right here. Here I go, like that. And that's a point. And that is going to be behind. You could also just take your micron. And I'm going to keep this same point on top all the way up. So I'm going to, before I color it all in, I'm going to go ahead and just kind of mark it. I'm going to color it white there, and there, there, and there, and there. And actually, no, that's it. Oh, yes, that's it. And then I'm going to mark that right there is going behind. So I'll come down from where I marked and I'll cut that off just right there because it's going to slip behind here, and that's going to slip behind. There's almost a weaving going on. Okay. But then we've also got highlights on the other side that we can do. And I'm going to pick what seems to be the right points out here. And so I'm going to pick these outer points, those outer points, but I'm going to pick this one that goes all the way back. I'm going to pick right here on that outer point, and here, and here, and here. Right there. So it's on this underside thing that goes in like that I'm going to highlight. And because this is going to come across on the highlight, like right over there, this is going to go behind. And I'm going to mark that out just a little bit. So I'm going to come from this point over here, and this is going to slip behind. Now, you don't have to do it this way. I did not teach this way last night. I'm making this up as I go, but we're going to see what happens. I think it'll be okay. You can erase off of this black. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to pick something in the middle, pick one of these in the middle, and I'm going to I put my highlight almost to this edge. Right there. And then I'm going to get my light green, my light color, and I'm going to color that right there. And then I'm going to get my dark green. I'm going to color a little bit more of it, but not all the way down to here. I'm just going to take it about that far. And maybe, you know, smooth it out. You can kind of take your colored pencils and go back and forth till you get a nice smooth texture there. And then you can take black and come up from the bottom until it looks sort of like that. And then you can come back over the black. When you're working with colored pencils, you go back and forth, blending as you go along. And there you are. I told the group last night that I felt like this is the point where you stop being a tangler, just a tangler, and you start being an artist, because you're choosing and blending colors and really making that 3D thing come to life. There are a few of these triangles I have not decided yet what I'm going to do with, but I'm going to go ahead and put in what I have decided, which is these tiles, these triangles that are marked. Okay, now I'm going to go down. I'm just going to do all of these on one side. So I'll start with a little white at the top. And I'm using the charcoal up there rather than a colored pencil, because as you noted over here, we can get a much whiter white than with the charcoal than we can with the colored pencil. And they work just fine together. Okay, now I'm going to come back with this. And with your colored pencils, start by coloring it very lightly so that you have some, you leave some tooth available on your paper. If you press down too hard, it smashes out the tooth of your paper, and the paper won't take the colored pencil anymore. Okay, when I've done that side, I'm going to come over and do it to the other side, picking up on the points I've marked. Okay, now I've done my light green and my dark green on the left-hand side. So now I'm gonna kind of work up with the black, blend that dark green into the black. Now I notice on the left-hand side that it doesn't look as smooth as it does on the right-hand side. And even on the right-hand side in places, it looks a little like we've gone over it with a crayon or something. If you want to smooth that out, it just is going to take applying a little bit more pressure. So you just do here and you just a little more pressure. A little more pressure so that you get down into the paper a little bit more. And then up here, just getting down into that paper and mixing those colors, quite literally mixing them on the paper, blending them. And you can spend all day doing this. This is a lot of fun. Just back and forth until it's looking much smoother. Just as in regular paints, when you want to get a smooth gradation of color, you don't put it all down at one time. The same thing goes with colored pencils. You're laying those pigments down, and then you're coming back in and you're mixing them. one of the problems with egg tempera, you know, when we're working on our icons, is egg tempera doesn't do it this way. Egg tempera, you take one color, you put it down. And then you can come back after that's dried and kind of go over what's there. But in terms of really blending those colors on the board, you don't. You just lay over kind of different veils of color very lightly. But here we actually blend it into the paper. A little green there and come back with black. Okay. Well, I think at this point, we're going to move on to the next thing. I may come in, you know, later this afternoon or this evening and blend a little bit more. I was looking through a book of things that I'd already pasted into a scrapbook, and I found myself grabbing a pencil and doing things to it when I'd already said, I finished that 6 months ago. So they're really never quite finished. So this is what I have so far. And I think we're getting a pretty good 3D effect there when I look at it from arm's length. But I'm still missing some things. And so I think what I'm going to do is just make a very light, in fact, I'm not even going to start with that. I'm going to start with the green, just a little bit of light green right there, right at the edge. Where it's just catching the light a little bit. Just a little bit. And maybe blend it down a little bit. And if it seems like too much to you, you know what to do. You come back with your little black pencil and say, oh, I didn't like that so much there. I think I'm going to smooth that out just a little bit. And you do that, like maybe right there. It shouldn't be right up against that. Okay. I think that's got it. At least enough for right now. Now, Rick Roberts from Zentangle Central, headquarters, says, you know, set it over to the side and come back later and take a look at it. And you may decide, you may then see something else you want to add. You might even turn it to the wall for a couple days and then come back and turn it around and take a look at it. And take a look at it from far and take a look at it from near. How you doing, Margot?
I'm doing okay, Gay. Thank you.
Okay. At this point, I'm gonna pick my Jelly Roll tin up, my big fat white pen, and I'm gonna do some highlighting of some of these corners. I want to show you something. So what I'm going to do is, you know, I have these little bitty lines like that. Well, I'm going to get my white ink flowing real good. And then I'm going to start out here on the end, and I'm going to just bring it back and feather it off and then lift it. And in some cases, I may even very lightly continue on down the line. But to give this thing some line weight, I haven't talked a whole lot about line weight before, but it's an important item. It can really do a lot for a drawing if every line isn't exactly the same. We get so used to vector drawings. You know, those are drawings made on a computer. And to make a vector drawing, you just lay down the path, and then you can adjust, like your line is from this point to this point. So this is the path, and on the computer, you can't really see that path, but you come back later, and with ink, with whatever color you want to, you can lay down a line of any width. You can make it a dash line or a line of dots or whatever you want, and they can be all the same. You can make weighted lines on the computer, but it takes some fancy doing. So you get a line that's like this, and then maybe you want it to be wider at one end and like that. It's still the same line, but the weight of the line, the width of the line has varied. And so when we're working with outlining things, varying that weight can become very expressive. And remember, this white ink takes longer to dry. And so you have to let it dry. it before you would go back in and retouch it? Or you kind of wind up with it looking blotchy and globby? And if it gets to looking too globby, there is a trick. And it involves an X-Acto knife. You can come back once it's fully dry, and you can just scrape some of that off like that. The white really does sit right on top of the paper. It's not like ink that goes down into the paper. And so if it isn't quite where you want it, you just scrape the white off the paper like that. And then once, you know, if it's nice and dry, then you can come back in with your pen, get it flowing again, and you can come down and color that. Sort of. It's an iffy process, but if you're very careful and not to damage the paper too much, you want to hold your, it'll work. You want to hold your X-Acto knife kind of vertical and like on your finger like that. You can scrape it and it's not going to hurt your finger. If you pull it like that, yeah, you're going to have a cut and it'll damage the paper. But just scrape it sideways and you can make it go away. Okay. So this is dry. So now I'm going to come back here. And of course, to make matters more difficult, the colored pencil is waxy enough that it's going to be slick, but we can still make this white pen work. So I can start up here at the top and do that. And try not to go over it with your hand like that because it's wet and it'll make a mess. You might keep a cloth handy. I keep some old rags handy and I wipe my pen off if it looks like it's globbing up on the pen. And so over here, I noticed that I have this white line that seemed to end too abruptly and not taper off like I wanted. So it's all dry now, and I can pretty much go back and scrape it off so that it looks more like I wanted it to. Okay. Turning it upside down, I really see some places I'd like to go back and kind of work on some more with the colored pencils. But I think this is about where I'm going to leave it today. There are lots of little details I'd like to fix. Just because I think, and I know I'm going to have to come back there. When you've got something like this that's so stark, part of its beauty is is getting it where it needs to be in terms of everything kind of exact. Understand that I have done a bunch of these and I've been tangling for 10 years. So if it doesn't look as perfect as you want, try again and just keep working on it, or lay it aside and say, I'm going to try this again in a year and see if I can do it differently or better or whatever. But anyway, I feel good about this. I'm going to put my chop on the bottom here. I think I'm going to use an 8. I'm gonna let that dry a second, and then okay. Then I'm going to turn it over and sign it and date it. And this is April the 5th. Time is sure flying. Okay. Well, thank you very much for being with me, Margot. And
thank you, Gay. That was great.
And we'll see each other next week.
Okie doke. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.